Hey guys, Will's Garage here. So in this video, I'm going to be removing the differential and I'm going to be replacing the differential bushings as well as the subframe bushings. I'm going to replace it all with solid mounts. And if you guys haven't seen my previous video where I removed the rear subframe, I'll leave a link in the upper right hand corner right here. So if you're interested, you can check it out. Since the last video, all I really did was prop it up and put the dolly underneath the diff, so that when I remove it, I can just roll it out of the way. So yeah, I'm just gonna get into it. So I'm gonna remove the rear diff bolt. This is the big one. It's a 21 millimeter. And now for the two front diff bolts. These are 18 millimeters. Raise the subframe and roll the differential out from the bottom. Alright, so this is what it looks like with the diff removed. I actually found it really easy to do it this way, to put on the dolly and slide it out, because the diff is really heavy. I'm going to be pressing in the diff bushings first because I read that these are easier than the subframe bushings. These I'm going to go ahead and pop them in the freezer to shrink them a bit. Hopefully that helps out with the installation. And I bought this tool here to remove the diff bushings. I got this at Pelican Parts, but there's various other vendors. I think ECS Tuning and a lot of other shops sell this as well. It comes with the threaded rod and various sized cups. All right, so I have the tool set up right here. As you can see, the cup on this side and the bigger cup on the inside here. So I'm going to be pulling the bushing out this way into the cup. So I got the bushing out and it came out pretty easily with this tool. Worked really well. There wasn't much resistance at all. Again, this is the setup I used to pull the bushing out. So I have the cup that pushes the bushing through and out into this cup with the nut on this side. All right. Now I'm going to remove the rear differential bushing, which is a little bit bigger. So I'm going to use a slightly bigger cup. All right, check this out. See the bushing? It's already starting to come out. Literally, I am just turning this nut by hand. Booyah! Worked perfectly. This is what the rear bushing looks like. It's extremely soft. You press on it. Alright, so let's go ahead and press in the new bushing. This one is the rear bushing. Alright, so I pulled a new bushing through. As you can see, I have to say it's a lot more difficult to pull in the new bushing than to remove the old one. Unfortunately, looks like it bent a threaded rod already. All right, so I went to the hardware store, and obviously in the US, they don't sell a lot of metric sized bolts, let alone threaded rods. So I'm out of luck. What I did was I just basically hammered this threaded rod with a sledgehammer. Of course, I messed the threads up right here, but I think it should be okay because I don't use this part of the threads anyway. So hopefully this is straight enough now. Obviously it's not perfect, but I'm gonna give it a try. Okay, so let's move on to installing the front ones. Alright, so I managed to get both in, or actually all three. So now that I've done this, if I were to do it again, I would definitely do the front ones first because they are much easier to press in. The one on the rear takes a lot more effort, and that's what caused the rod to bend. So I'm going to remove the rear subframe bushings first, and I'm going to use this tool here, which I picked up from eBay. You can just search E92, E90, M3 subframe bushing removal tool on eBay, and this should pop up. I bought this for about $50, but I see similar tools like this range from anywhere from $50 to $100. For the rear bushings, the stock ones have a lip on the bottom. So because of that, I'm gonna probably push it down and out. It chipped off the edge of the flanges. It came off pretty easily with just a hammer and a flathead screwdriver. There was a moment at the beginning where I thought the rod was beginning to bend, but it turns out it was just a lot of pressure just to get it started again. But once the bushing starts moving, the tension eases off and it's much easier to crank it out. And do the other rear bushing right now, and then we'll move towards the front bushings. Got the second bushing out, came out pretty easily. There's one, there's two. I encountered a new issue though. Again, this is the bushing that just came out. Check this out. The cup, the backing of the cup is concave now. Alright, so the purpose of this flange is so that it fits over these two tabs here, as you can see, so that the cup can sit flush against the subframe when you pull the bushing out. The problem is this bushing is slightly bigger than this washer flange. So I think I'm gonna have to chip away and break some of this edge off. Actually, it's pretty easy to break off. Alright, so now that I have the ledges broken off, this washer can fit perfectly over it now. And we're going to push the bushing from the bottom up. As you can see, the washer is starting to bend already, and I barely applied any force so far. Okay, it broke. So looks like this plate's not strong enough. It's totally bent. But as you can see, it's just riding on the two ridges right here. They're sitting against this very thin lip of the subframe. So it's a lot of force. Okay, so I think I may have found a solution from preventing this washer from bending. It has bent a little bit already, but as you can see, there's a gap between the subframe and the washer. And if you fill in the gap with a piece of metal, like in this case, using a screwdriver on both sides, it may hold the washer straight enough so that you can continue cranking the bushing out. So I'm going to give this a try. Fingers crossed. Let's see if it works. Nice, so that worked. So I just got one more front bushing to remove and we are good. I think it's about to come out now. So loosen this up. There we go. All right, so I touched it up with some paint. No more raw metal exposed, so everything looks good now. So I'm going to move forward with installing the rear bushings first because it doesn't require that special flanged washer. And let's see how that goes. And according to bimmerword, their mounts are mounted with a flange on the bottom for all four. And they also state here that the stopper washer originally used on the bottom is not reused. I just pulled this out of the freezer. As you can tell, it's all nice and frosty. Okay, so once you get the bushing nearly all the way through, you're gonna have to flip the cup the other way around so that the rest of the bushing can come through. Alright, so I got the first bushing through. That was relatively easy. I think it was easier to install this bushing than it was to remove the stock one. As you can see, the flange is sitting flush to the subframe and the top's protruding slightly. So this is how far I've gotten it in, and the bushing is thawed out. It's been about probably 15 to 20 minutes. It's really thin, as you can see. And earlier I showed you guys that I used this ring that came with the bushing removal / installation kit, and it sits right here, and it literally sits just on these two tabs right here, and it's just not enough. As you can see, it's totally bent. So I went to my local metal store and I got a pipe that has 3-inch inside diameter. If you guys are doing the same thing, it's called a Schedule 40 pipe, which works perfect for this. I asked them to cut it to 3 inches. Anywhere from 2 to 4 inches I think should work. but it fits right over on top of the subframe. It spreads the load across the entire circle, so it should work much better. Okay, so I'm officially caving in. I stripped out the original metal rod. I got a replacement right here, and I'm cranking as hard as I can with this 1/2-inch breaker bar. It's not going in, so I'm gonna go and pick up a hydraulic press.
Many hours later.
Okay, so I went to Harbor Freight and picked up a 12-ton press, and I just installed it here. One thing I wanted to note is if you guys are picking up the same product from Harbor Freight, at least the ones that they're making recently, you're gonna run into an issue with aligning the bottle jack with this top notch right here, because they put the sticker on the wrong side. So I was assuming that this was the front, but if you're gonna try to put the bottle jack in this way, it's not gonna align. So it took me a while to figure it out, but once you flip it around, everything lines up and should work properly. I tried pushing the bushing in from the top, but I only got it part way through, as you can see. So I decided to flip the entire subframe upside down because I think, the pressure from the hydraulic press comes from the top. After trying multiple times, I decided to give a break on this bushing and move on to pressing on the other one, which easily went through until there was approximately 3/4 of an inch remaining, just like the other side. At this point, I was getting pretty desperate, so I went to grab some dry ice in an attempt to shrink the bushing, but that didn't work either. It wasn't until I began heating the subframe flange simultaneously for the bushing to press through. Yeah! So I finally got the bushing in, as you can see, nice and flush, with the bottom protruding out like it should. Oh my god, I was literally about to throw in the towel on this thing and just about to pull apart the rest of the arms and just take the subframe to the shop and have them press it in. So basically, as you saw, what I did was I used a heat gun to heat the outer area on the bottom here, because I think the flange on the bottom was what was holding everything back from being pressed through. So by heating the bottom, my idea was to expand the subframe flange, and simultaneously I dropped dry ice on the top. I don't know how much of a difference that made, but I think that kept at least the bushing from not heating up and expanding. And all that coupled with a new bottle jack from Harbor Freight, which they allowed me to exchange for a new one because the old one was leaking out from here and it wasn't holding pressure. So all of that combined led to the bushing being able to be pressed through. So now I just have one more. This is the original guy to get through. I am super happy that I'm finally done with this, so I can move on to the next step of installing the carbon drive shaft and the titanium X pipe on the M3. So stay tuned for the next video.